today. Worship is where we thank God for who He is and for what He's done. He changes lives here, and that's what we're going to sing about. So come on, let's raise our expectation in the room as we worship together. You are with me, what can separate us? And you are for me, and what can stand against us? Your love, it won't let go. I know it won't. And darkness and shadows, they have no power over me. Fear is empty, and shame has no authority. Your love, it won't let go. I know it won't. I know your thoughts, your plans for me are good. And I know you hold my future in my heart. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. No, they won this morning. Come on, we sing. Healing and freedom as you speak favor over me. Faith is breaking all impossibility. Your name has overcome, your name alone. For I know your thoughts, your plans for me are good. And I know you hold my future in my heart. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. No, we believe they won't. We're here to worship you, Lord. Come on, let's sing this out today. That I am standing on every promise that you made. I will see it come to pass in your name, in your name. Jesus, I will trust every word I hear you say. I will see it come to pass in your name. Come on, we sing with confidence today. I am standing on every promise that you made. I will see it come to pass in your name, in your name. Jesus, I will trust every word I hear you say. I will see it come to pass in your name, in your For I know your thoughts, your plans for me are good. I know you hold my future in my heart. Come on, we sing it out. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Holy doors.
Thank you, Jesus. This next song has been an anthem for us. We sing it because we know that God's promises never fail. This song reminds us that He is good no matter what we're going through. He promised that He will be with us. He'll never forsake us. Sing it out. You are here. You're moving in our midst. We worship you. We worship you. You are here and you're working in this place. We worship you. We worship you. You are here. You're moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here and you're working in this place. We worship you. Yes, I worship you. 'Cause you are the way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Just tell him. You are the way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Yes, you are here, and you're touching every heart. I worship you, God, I worship you. You are here, and you're healing every heart. We believe it, we worship you. Yes, I worship you. Yes, you are here, and you're turning lives around. So I worship you, God, I worship you. You are here, and you're mending every heart. So I worship you, God, I worship you. 'Cause you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. The waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, that is who you are. Yes, that is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are. Oh, that is who you are. That is who you are. Yes, that is who you are. That is who you are. You're so good to us. Yes, Jesus. It's who you are. And even when we don't see it, you're working. Even when we don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, never stop.
Come on, sing it out today.
Never stop, you never stop working. Even when we don't see it,
You're working.
And even when
It's
we
true
don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. No, you never stop, you never stop working. So even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop. 'Cause you are the way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper,
You're worthy of all our praise. You're worthy of all our thanks, God. 'Cause you're good to us, Lord. It was my cross you bore, so I could live in the freedom you died for. And now my life is yours, and I will sing of your goodness forevermore.
Tell him how worthy he is.
And worthy is your name, Jesus. You deserve the praise. Worthy is your name. Come on. Worthy is your name, Jesus. You deserve the praise. Worthy is your name. Yes, it is, Lord. You're so good to us. Now my shame is gone. I stand amazed in your love undeniable, and it never ends. Your grace goes on, and I will sing of your goodness forevermore. Worthy is your name, Jesus. You deserve the praise. Worthy is your name. Worthy is your name, Jesus. You deserve the praise. Worthy is your name. Come on, we tell him. Worthy is your name, Jesus. You deserve the praise. Worthy is your name. Worthy is your name, Jesus. You deserve the praise. Worthy is your name. Oh, so worthy, God. So we lift you up to the highest place of our focus, our attention. It belongs to you. So be exalted now in the heavens as your glory fills this place. You alone deserve our praise. You're the name above all names. So be exalted now in the heavens as your glory fills this place. You alone deserve our praise. You're the name above all names. Come on. So be exalted now in the heavens as your glory fills this place. You alone deserve our praise. You're the name above all names. So be exalted now in the heavens as your glory fills this place. You alone deserve
Good grief. Good grief. It's, for the people that are watching this later, it's early in the day right now. And y'all getting loud. Man, it's good to see you guys. So good to see you guys. Hey, if you're new, if this is your first time with us, we are thrilled to have you. Church, can we give it for everybody that's here for the first time? Everybody that's watching online for the first time? It's a big day, man. It's a big day. If you're new with us, my name's Petey. I'm the lead pastor here, and I know many of you I've just met before service started, and it's the first time that we've met, but this is your church home, and man, that's normal. Like, I'm kind of new here too, all right? So it's been a weird year for everybody, but man, I'm so pumped for today. If you're joining us online, we're thrilled to have you as well. Can't wait for you to be with us in person when you're ready, because I'm telling you, when you get to the room, y'all can attest to it. It's crazy in here. It's so good to be back with y'all. Hey, before you grab a seat, will you turn and elbow bump somebody next to you? Keep it CDC appropriate. Make the place feel warm and welcome. Do your thing. Introduce yourself. And then grab a seat. Awesome. Man, y'all look good. Haven't seen y'all in a while. Some of y'all came back from COVID looking swole. Lost that COVID weight. You did. Oh, man. So pumped for today. I could not sleep last night. I can never sleep before I preach, which is hard because I preach most weeks. So most Saturday nights, I'm just up late, and my poor wife just is trying to sleep, and I'm over there tossing and turning. I really couldn't sleep last night because I was just so pumped and excited for today, because it has been 26 weeks since we had in-person public gatherings. That is half a year. That's crazy. I landed here in Colorado Springs December 1st of last year, and I got a whopping 14 Sundays under my belt with y'all before COVID hit. And then I started having to lead and teach and all that from behind a computer screen. Y'all watching me on video. I was preaching to a camera. How many fans of the show The Office do we have in here? A few. So we watch The Office nonstop, and I have a scene picked out from The Office to describe pretty much every part of my first year here. And when I think about COVID, I think about the scene, if you're familiar with the show, where Michael Scott's out in the wilderness filming himself being Survivor Man. I've never felt more like Michael Scott than in the early days of COVID when I was preaching to a camera, and I had no idea if there's anyone out there. It was totally crazy. But man, we're back. We're back, and so thrilled and excited about today because we're celebrating. All right, today, I hope you're cool with this. Today, we're just going to celebrate a ton. Y'all cool with that? We got a lot to celebrate. And that's why I say, if you're new here, if this is your first time checking us out, this is a great time to jump in and be a part of the family here. You know, we've been saying that a lot, that you don't have to believe what we believe to belong here. You don't have to behave like we behave to belong here. This is a safe place for you to come and figure out what you believe, to come and sort through your beliefs about Jesus and to really discover who he is and what he's all about. And right now is such a beautiful, good time to join the family and to make this part of your normal routine, because we got a lot to celebrate, all right? So I want to back up just a little bit and celebrate what God has been doing here for the past 26 weeks. While we've not had public in-person gatherings, the church has been far from shut down. And I think the biggest thing that I can point to you and to celebrate, especially what our church has been doing over these 26 weeks. And if you're new, this is a great kind of peek into the Red Rock family, is that this place has been so ridiculously generous. The people of our church have been so generous. And I think it's such a testament. To me, it's been the thing I've been the most impressed by and comforted by, is the fact that when the rest of the world has been hoarding resources, right? Because no one knows what the future holds. No one knows. This thing's crazy. And when the rest of the world has been hoarding resources, the church has been stepping up and being even more generous. I mean, we've been able to partner with some incredible organizations during this time that are on the front lines of helping people in our community. We've been able to write checks to places like Care and Share Food Bank that's been fighting food insecurities in our community. We've been able to write checks to 'Cause I Love You that did a huge backpack bash and provided school supplies to low-income students who needed it. and who needed school supplies to get off to a good start this year. We've written checks to places like Springs Rescue Mission that's fighting against homelessness and poverty and addiction, which is still a huge, huge problem, especially in the midst of a pandemic. And that's crazy. We helped 40 specific families who needed food or needed rent assistance. People who came to us and said, we need help. We don't know how we're going to make it. And because of the generosity of this place, the generosity of our church, we were able to step up and be the hands and feet of Jesus. And I don't know about you, but that's the kind of church I want to be a part of. That's the kind of church that's worth showing up and showing out. I'm telling you, it was unbelievable. The generosity of this place just shined through. But I will say that past that, there's even more to celebrate. Okay, because not only in the midst of a pandemic did our church not back down, and God was still doing his thing, and Jesus was doing incredible work, God was also changing lives through our church. And it's such a weird thing. Like, our church's doors were closed. We were doing all church online. Like, it was just tune onto a computer and watch a screen, and God was still changing lives. Our mission was still being lived out. It was such a beautiful thing. You know, like, for those of you that are new, that are watching online and they're new, we are not a church that exists for ourselves, right? And I know that's different, right? Because like most churches, I've walked into a lot of churches before. I've been a part of a lot of churches. Most churches exist for themselves. And I can say I've been a part of some of those churches. I've been a part of leading some of those churches that exist for church people, right? So some of you have felt that before. You walk into a church and you're like, oh, this is for sure a club. This is for sure a club for people that already believe and already go there, and that's cool. And that's cool for them. Love them. That's just not us. We don't exist for ourselves. We exist for those who have yet to believe. So if you're here and you're not sure what you believe about God and you're not sure what God believes about you, you are right at home. This is a family for you to come and be a part of. And God was still doing that in the midst of COVID. And I actually want to show you the story of a young woman who came through our doors earlier this year and then was tracking through church online. And some of you have seen this video, but I want us to take a look at it again for those of you that are new, to get a picture of what God was doing in the midst of church online. This is the story of Chandler. And Chandler, I actually got to meet her for the first time in person this week. And just go ahead and take a look at what God was doing in her life in the midst of all this.
So Chandler, why don't you go ahead and tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you found Red Rock?
So a year and a half ago, I visited Colorado Springs and I fell in love with it out here. So I packed up a bunch of my stuff, I saved up money, I moved up north and worked for the summer, and then I moved out here. And I'm right off from Rock Rimmon. So I'm constantly passing Red Rock, and I always kind of had that pull, like, I wanted to check it out, but I didn't have anyone to go to church with. So there was one Sunday I just woke up and I was like, okay, I'm going to church by myself. And I got dressed to attend. I had a dress on and some wedges and like a nice jacket, and I walked in and it was super casual. But yeah, that's how I discovered Red Rock.
So you were brought up Catholic, and now you're coming to a Christian non-denominational church.
So I was baptized Catholic, but I wasn't necessarily raised Catholic.
Okay.
My aunt would take me on an Easter Sunday or sometimes on Christmas. So I didn't learn a whole lot about Catholicism until I was in college, and my interest was sparked, like wanting to research. I always struggled with being a follower of Jesus because I just wasn't educated. I just didn't know. So I had the thought, like, why this man? Should I be, for what? For what reason? I had no idea. I just didn't identify with that religion.
Sure.
And then with Christianity, I found that it's I describe it as relaxing and welcoming, and like that sigh, it's like a breath of fresh air.
So you expressed the want of getting baptized. How, what kind of sparked that for you and made you reach out to Petey in a time of a pandemic when you hadn't met him really or met anybody? What kind of stirred that up for you?
Well, I was so nervous. I wanted to do it for a couple years now, and I just didn't feel like, why should I be able to be baptized? Every time I entertain the thought, like 25 years of sins flood in, and I'm like, I'm not worthy of that. I don't deserve to do that. And I felt like I had to check all of these different boxes and go through this list of things that I needed to accomplish in order to be worthy enough to be baptized. And that's just not how it is. And I did not realize that until I started listening to him. It's so scary. It is so scary walking into a church full of people in a town that you know nobody, and you don't even know if you agree with Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
you just know that you believe in God and you do have faith and you can feel it, but you're not sure, like, you're like aiming without any direction. So it is scary. It's very intimidating, but it's okay.
Yeah. So I'm really excited that you're going to be around and that you're going to get baptized. And it's just, I'm super excited to just kind of see your journey go forward. So
Well, thank you.
I'm excited. And thanks for talking with me and being with me
Absolutely. You
and
guys
sharing
have
your
been great
story.
to me,
Yeah,
so
it's been great.
for sure.
Man. That's incredible. And I know that some of you are on that same journey right now. And so you need to know, man, you are in the right place. Because we exist to help people discover Jesus. Like what she was saying, like she was like, man, why even give Jesus a chance? I'm not even really sure why this guy deserves my attention. Man, if that's how you're feeling, if that's where you're coming from, this is the perfect place for you. And we're so thrilled to have you here. But and so we celebrate that, but I got something else to celebrate with you, okay? Can we go one more? One more celebration. This is going to be a wild one, all right? So this is one that I can't quite believe that I'm going to say this to you, okay? This is one of those that I'm just like I've been stumbling over the words to explain it to you, and it's just buck wild crazy, okay? So just buckle up for buck wild crazy. So the next thing we have to celebrate is something God has been doing over the past 3 or 4 months in our church, and it's going to change the future of our church forever, which is amazing. But it's crazy, okay? So 4 or 5 months go back up, COVID just started, and we were trying to figure out the solution to a different problem, okay? We were thinking COVID's going to be like 2 or 3 weeks long. We'll be back in action real quick, right? So we're working on this other problem that our church was facing, and really it's a problem that was facing even before I got here, which was the problem of our facility situation. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, we rent the space that we're in right now, and oh, by the way, rent is not cheap. It is a pretty penny to rent this place. And so our lease comes up on this place this coming April. Okay, so April of 2021, our lease expires in this place. So we had to figure out, are we going to renew this lease, or are we going to go somewhere else? Now, the other thing we were bumping up against is not only is rent a pretty penny, but the other part of it is, if you remember pre-COVID, we were maxing this place out at 2 of our 3 services. If you have kids and you were taking your kids back to kids ministry, you were barely able to squeeze by people in the hallways because there were just so many people coming, which is incredible. Right? Like that's the kind of problem we want to have, is because we want more and more people to come to hear about who Jesus is. But the problem is we just didn't have any more space. And now you think post-COVID with social distancing, it's even less space. And so we were sitting there thinking, what do we do? But the problem was there were no available options. Okay, like if we didn't stay here, there was no place to go. There was no like, hey, come rent this place. Hey, come buy this building. There was nothing available that really fit what we needed. And so conventional wisdom would just say, sign the lease, stay here for another 4 or 5 years, and just be done with it. But man, when it came time for us to sign that lease, I just had a pit in my stomach. And my heart was racing, and I felt like God was just saying so loud to me, don't sign the lease. Don't sign the lease. And so I remember showing up to our staff meeting that week. I remember showing up to our elder meeting, the guys who help oversee this church. And I remember telling my wife that night, I didn't sign the lease. And they're like, okay, so what are we going to do? And like a great leader, I said, I don't know. I have no clue. And they were like, great, who did we hire? I said, I just think God's got something more for us. I don't know what it is, but we're just going to start praying and waiting, and we're just going to see. I just feel like we got to wait. And so we started praying, we started waiting. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, this property came up for sale that was basically perfect for what we need. Perfect size, perfect location. It's a mile east of here. And a big open warehouse, 44,000 square feet, enough for us to grow into the future. And there's just so much about it that seems so good that I thought, this is too good to be true, right? And so we started praying and seeing if we could take the steps to maybe make this new place our home. But we knew, like, this is a kind of stupid, crazy step to take in the midst of a pandemic, new lead pastor, and it's going to cost some money, right? Like, I mean, there are a lot of times to raise money that makes sense. In the middle of a pandemic when everything is shut down is not one of them. It's not ideal time. But we just felt like God was saying, take a step and go. Take a step and go. And so we kept taking steps and steps and steps. And it finally came to this point that I knew was going to be kind of the breaking point where I didn't know if it was going to work. None of us knew if this was going to work. And some of you were here for this. We in early July, we gathered some of the foundational families of this church. Some of the families that have laid the foundation for what this place is by the way they've given and the way they've served. And we just put this opportunity in front of them and said, hey, here's what it is. But if we're going to get into it, we've got this huge hurdle to cross. We need to raise nearly $2 million for a down payment. And, oh, by the way, we need to raise it in like 30 days. I'm not great at this stuff, guys, okay? The timing, the whole, I'm learning, okay? I'm learning. And so we put this opportunity in front. We said, hey, the only way this is going to work is if the foundational families of our church come together and just give like crazy. And we were praying like crazy. We had no idea if it was going to work. And honestly, it shouldn't have worked. It shouldn't have worked. But the thing I want to celebrate with you is that I get to stand before you today and tell you that in about 30 to 45 days, we raised $1.75 million, which was enough to get a down payment for our new church home. That's wild. God did something unbelievable. Unbelievable. I've told people around the country about what God has been doing here, and people's jaws are hitting the floor. You did what in the midst of a pandemic? You did what in year one? You did what? My God did this. God put it on people's hearts to give. People who've laid the foundation for this church and people who believe in the future of this church. And so the exciting news I get to celebrate with you is that the goal is on Easter Sunday of 2021, we're going to move into our first permanent home as a church, which is wild. Yeah, man. I want to show you a picture of it. Go ahead and throw up the pictures of it. So it's 1710 Dublin Boulevard. It's currently Pikes Peak Motorsports. If you're in the market for a motorcycle, they got you covered. But this is it. It is right now just a big open box warehouse with motorcycles sitting in it. I have been tempted to purchase a motorcycle in the process. Not yet. But if you see me rolling up on day one in a motorcycle, you're going to know I fell prey to it. But we see this facility, it's right next to a liquor store. You got Fascinations down the way. You got Sprouts. It's a perfect spot for a church. It's the perfect spot. Right where the church should be. But we see this place turning into just an incredible, beautiful, modern church space for us to welcome people in and help them discover Jesus for years to come. And this could not have happened without the generosity of a lot of people. But you need to know that was just the first step of the process. Okay, because now we all got to come together, everybody that calls this church home, and give generously to this thing so that we can move into it, so that we can renovate it, so we can finish out the renovations, and so that we can provide ministry for the people that are going to come in these doors come April of 2021. And so you're going to hear us talk about this more in the weeks to come. We got lots of time. And whereas before in July, I said, hey, we need to raise like $2 million in 30 days. We've got time, okay? So we're like for the weeks to come, we're going to be showing you renderings of what this building is going to become. We're going to show you exactly what it's going to take for us to get there. We're going to be praying about what those of us that call Red Rock home are going to give towards this over the next couple of years. You need to know if you're new with us, we're not asking you to give. If you want to jump in on the generosity, man, feel free to. But this is for those of us that call Red Rock home. We want this to be all of our home together. And so we all want to be in on this. And we believe God is going to change some lives through this facility. And so you're going to hear us say this phrase a lot in the weeks to come. This phrase, worth it all. Worth it all. Okay, you can see right there the total cost of the building is $8.1 million. That's facility and renovations. We've raised $1.75 so far. We're going to talk about how we're going to accomplish that. If you want to learn more about it, if you want to start giving, all that, you can visit redrockchurch.org/worthitall. You'll find that on our webpage as well. That'll give you all the details, all the questions you got. We got answers for them. And we got time. We got time to process through this together as a church. But I know, and the reason that we're using that phrase, worth it all, and that's something God's been putting on my heart in all of this. And it's something I feel like God is going to use to remind us of why we're doing this. Because I know what some of you are thinking right now. I know it. I know especially if you are skeptical of faith or you're skeptical of the church, I know the question you're probably asking right now is, why in the world would you do this? In the middle of a pandemic, In the middle of all this chaos, when you don't know what the future looks like, what in the world would motivate people to give $1.75 million when you don't know what next year holds? Why? And I get it, but you need to understand. The reason that we would feel compelled to do this and take this big step of faith, the reason that we feel compelled to give generously and sacrificially is because we believe that Jesus is worth it all. Jesus is worth everything we have. He's worth all of our time. He's worth all of our resources. He's worth all of our affection. He's worth it all. You see, Jesus actually predicted that his followers would do stupid, crazy things like this. Do you know that? Jesus actually told a story. It's my favorite story that Jesus ever told about what it's like to follow him. Jesus predicted 2,000 years ago that a bunch of people in Colorado Springs would raise money in the middle of a pandemic and buy a building. He did. I want to show you that story real quick. It's Matthew chapter 13, verse 44. It's one of my favorite stories that Jesus ever told of what it's like to follow him. He says this. He says, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that a man discovered hidden in a field. And in his excitement, he hid it again, it's one of my favorite parts of it, and sold everything he owned to get enough money to buy the field. That's the whole story. Now, leave that story up there for a second. Jesus has a crowd of people around him, and they're all wanting to know these wise teachings of Jesus. And Jesus comes along and says, all right, if you want to know what it's like to follow me, if you want to know what it's like to have a relationship with God, here's what it's like. It's like you're walking in a random field, and then like you trip on something. And you look down, and it's like there's like a box in the ground or something. You're dusting that thing off, and you open it up, and all of a sudden you found in the middle of this random field the most beautiful, priceless, worth it all treasure that you could ever possibly find. And you just stumbled across it. And then in your excitement, you find that treasure, and you're so excited, like your mind is blown because you cannot believe what you just found. All of a sudden you go and you do something crazy. You sell everything you have to buy the field. You give it all away because you found something that's actually worth it all. He says that's what it's like to follow me. That's what it's like when you found God. You find this treasure, and you realize that it's worth it all. You see, there's so many of us right now in this room and that are watching online that would tell you that since they started following Jesus, since they discovered who Jesus really was and what he's really all about, not what the media says he's all about, not what, Republican or Democratic politics says he's all about, not what that bad example of a Christian that you work with said he's all about. When you discover who Jesus really is and what he's really all about, everything in your life gets better. I didn't say easier, because there are a lot of people in this room that their life didn't get easier, but it got better. See, when you start following Jesus, your relationships just start getting richer. Your joy just starts to increase. Your peace starts to go through the roof. I mean, I've seen so many followers of Jesus that I've talked to in the middle of this pandemic that have lost jobs, that have had to homeschool kids, and they have no idea what they're doing, but at the same time, they've got this calm in their hearts, this peace in their hearts. We sang that song Waymaker earlier. It's this confidence that God is going to make a way for us, and we're good. While the whole world's falling apart, the follower of Jesus knows it's going to be okay. See, there's something like when you discover Jesus, your joy goes through the roof, your purpose goes through the roof. Like your life starts to feel like it makes sense. Your life starts to click. You start to experience what Jesus called life to the full. Life to the full. Life the way it was meant to be experienced. You see, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. You and I were actually created the way God made us. We were created to live like Jesus is worth it all. That's actually when life clicks. When life makes the most sense is when you live like Jesus is worth it all. Jesus said the key to humanity, I love this so much, the key to being human, like the secret to unlock it, is this. Look with me at Mark chapter 12. He says, Jesus replies, the most important commandment, the key to being human is this. Listen, O Israel, the Lord our God is the one and only Lord, and you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. Live like Jesus is worth it all. It's the greatest commandment. Now, I know. I can crawl in your brain because I'm with you. when you hear commandments, when you hear commandment, that makes you feel some type of way. Commandment is like, oh, there's the tyrant God up in the sky demanding things from us. Here's what you have to do. You must love me with everything you have. You must. But that's actually us projecting onto God. You see, God is not a drill sergeant. See, God's commandments were never something he wanted from us. God's commandments were always something he wants for us. They're always actually for our betterment. You think back to the Old Testament. You think about the 10 Commandments. Even if you're not familiar with the Bible, you've heard about the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments. Got to get the 10 Commandments back up in school. All that stuff. The 10 Commandments. They were not something God wanted from the people of Israel. He wanted for them. It's like, hey, you know what? Your life will actually be a lot better if you don't cheat on your wife, if you don't steal, if you don't murder people, if you don't covet other people's possessions. Like, life's going to go way better for you if you don't do these things. I want this for you. You see, Jesus is saying the same thing here. If you want life to the full, like the best life you could ever possibly imagine, not the easiest, the best life you could ever possibly imagine, here's the key. Love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. Live like Jesus is worth it all. And I promise you, your life will unlock like never before. Your life will come to its fullness. You'll start to experience it like you've never experienced it before. I've got a Jeep. And I know some of you are like, what a Colorado poser. You move to Colorado and you get a Jeep. Cool, dude. But before you think Colorado poser, I owned the Jeep before, okay? Back off. But the problem is I'm not an outdoorsman in any way, okay? Now, and I owned the Jeep before I moved here. But the problem is I owned the Jeep where I used to live in the state of Indiana. Now, if you've ever been to Indiana, there is zero reason to own a Jeep. None. There are no rocks. There are no mountains. There are no hills. It is corn for days. That's all it is. So there's no reason for me to own a Jeep. The only reason I got a Jeep is because my wife thought it looked good, and I want a girl being like, oh, look at my hubs rolling in on a Jeep, looking good and stuff. And she did. She does. She doesn't talk like that, but. And so I got the Jeep. Well, then I moved to Colorado, and I'm like, I finally live in a state where it makes sense to own a Jeep, right? I can go up on mountains. I can go what they call off-roading, whatever that is. Here's the problem, though, guys. I am not handy. I'm not an outdoorsman. I had to change a flat tire yesterday, and I thought, do we have the instruction manual? How do I do it? Can I YouTube this? I don't know what I'm doing here. So you talk about going off-roading. I've not gone off-roading. I have been driving my Jeep to work and back. It has been a peaceful and pleasant experience. But I've not used it for what's worth. And I feel so bad. I feel like one of you guys should have my Jeep and not me. Because you guys would probably know how to use this thing. Like, you know where to take it. My next door neighbors are like, oh, you have a Jeep. Have you gone up so-and-so and gone up? I'm like, no. Because what am I going to do if I get stuck? What am I going to do? I'll be stuck. I'll be dead. I will die of hunger and starvation. No one will find me. I'm not doing it. This poor Jeep is sitting in my garage with all this potential, right? All this opportunity to do things it was created to do. And it's not going to do it. Now, that's a silly way to say. I think that some of you right now, you know that that's true of your life. I think some of you deep down, and you'd never admit it. You wouldn't turn to your spouse and say it. You wouldn't turn to your friend and say it. But some of you right now are waking up at 3 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, and you have that lurking, haunting feeling of life was supposed to be more than this. You have that lurking feeling like, man, I thought marriage would be more than this. I thought my friendships would be more than this. I've got the job. I've got the things that I thought would fulfill me, but there's something deep down that just doesn't feel right. And I feel like I'm missing out on life. You are. You are. Because life only reaches its fullness. You only truly unlock life for all of its glory, for all of its power. I'm telling you, the life God gave you is so powerful, and it's so packed with potential, and it's so packed with capacity. You could experience so much more of life if you would live like Jesus is worth it all. if you would give him all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your mind, and all of your strength, oh my gosh, you will experience life like never before. And I know right now some of you are thinking, great, another thing I got to try to do. It's like, yeah, Petey, sure, if I hit the gym every day, 10 hours a day, I'd be swole. Yeah, who's got time for that? Who's got effort for that? Yeah, sure, if I loved God with everything I had, how am I going to find the willpower for that? But that's the catch. That's the great secret of following Jesus, is it's never about willpower. You don't have to try to love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength. It actually doesn't come from within. It actually comes from Jesus. That when you look to Jesus, you actually find the inspiration and the power and the motivation to live like he's worth it all. See, when you look to Jesus, you start reading him more. You start listening to his words more. And you start applying his teachings to your life. You start following him. You start to see that Jesus actually lived like you and I were worth it all. Jesus actually spent everything he had for you. He gave up everything just to say, I love you. And I'm for you. I'm wild about you. See, from God's perspective, you and I were worth it all. Jesus was God in the flesh. And he left everything he had in heaven, every bit of power, every bit of luxury, and he lived a life of poverty and hardship so that you and I would have someone to relate to. Jesus, tells us that he endured every temptation that you and I have ever suffered through. Jesus has gone through everything you and I have. Jesus gave up everything so that he could look at you and say, I can relate. I know what it's like to be human. I know what it's like to be you. You've got a great counselor in me. Jesus gave up everything. Jesus dispensed his teaching to us. His word says, I mean, come on, we're here 2,000 years later trying to figure out how to live like Jesus and how to live out those teachings. You can't find somebody that said something last week that people are still talking about. You can't find something that someone tweeted or posted on Facebook that anyone gives a rip about this week. And here we are 2,000 years later still talking about Jesus. He gave up everything for us. And then, oh my gosh, when he died for us, when he stretched out his arms on a cross and he was nailed to it so that you and I would know that God loves us and so that you and I could be forgiven of all the mistakes and all the stupid stuff we've ever done. And he didn't stop there. He was buried in a tomb for 3 days, and then he rose up from the dead so that you and I would never have to fear a physical death, so that you and I would know that death is not the end. Death is just the transition point to life to the full. I'm telling you, like, Jesus has given up everything for you and me. Jesus lived like we were worth it all. He proved it. That's the way you're going to hear us say it for the next several weeks. Jesus proved that we were worth it all. So we will live like Jesus is worth it all. Jesus proved with everything he did that you, no matter what you've done, no matter what you've said, no matter what you've felt, no matter what regrets you've got, you're worth it to God. He loves you more than you could ever possibly imagine. Jesus proved that we were worth it all, and so we will live like he is worth it all. The way John, one of Jesus' closest followers, phrased it is that we love because he first loved us. That's actually where the motivation and the inspiration comes from. You don't look within and say, oh, God, how am I going to love you more today? No, you look to Jesus and say, oh, Jesus, you love me that much? All right, I'll love you. Oh, you gave up all that for me? Okay, I'll give up this for you. You just constantly look to Jesus. You constantly look to him. That's why for the next several weeks, we're just going to figure out and we're going to talk through how to love God with all our heart, all our soul, all our mind, all our strength. We're going to figure out how to live and just love Jesus with everything we've got so we can unlock this life to the full. That's why I think right now, if you'll keep tracking with us for the next few weeks, if you're watching online, if you'll keep tracking with us for the next few weeks, I think your life will change for the better in every way as we begin to love God with everything we got. Now, I've got 3 kids. I've got a 9-year-old, I'm trying to remember the ages, we just had birthdays, 9, 6, 3, okay, 9, 6, 3. And we try to be, we try to be good Christian parents, okay? I would say that's like half the time it works, half the time it doesn't. So one of the things we try to do as good godly parents is read the Bible to our kids at night. No, don't be good getting any ideas in your head of oh, wow, pastor is such a good parent. It's like a 25% success rate, okay? Most of the time it's let's read the Bible. No, get them in bed, be quiet. It's bad. But the times that we do it, it's always, I won't say always, it's usually very good and very beneficial, and it's great. And a lot of the time that we'll read this children's Bible that we have, the words we're reading will pop out and really impact me. And I'm like, man, this is, like, I don't know what that says about my education level, but I am getting so much more out of the kids' Bible than but the story we just read of the man who discovered the treasure hidden in the field, when we read that version in my kids' Bible, it was so profound to me. And it really impacted me, and I've never forgotten it. And the children's Bible kind of read through the same thing. You know, the man found a treasure hidden in a field. In his excitement, he buried it, and they went and sold everything he had to buy the field. But then it added this little commentary, and I thought, man, this is so deep. I don't know if the kids actually get this, but I'm all in right now. It said, when it comes to the kingdom of God, you might stumble upon it. Like when it comes to following Jesus, you might stumble upon him. And then it said you might have to search for him, or you might have to give up everything for him, but he's worth it. And I thought, man, that's so profound, and it's so true. Right? I mean, some of us just stumbled upon Jesus. Come on. Some of you guys grew up in a home that loved Jesus. That's amazing. I pray that for my kids. I pray that they grow up and they say, man, I've been following Jesus since I can remember. I've always known Jesus. That's great. Some of you stumbled upon this church. You weren't even looking, right? You weren't even looking for this. But you got invited by a friend, and all of a sudden you found Jesus, and you just kind of stumbled into it. Man, that's awesome. Some of us got to search for him, though. Some of us have got questions and doubts and skepticism we got to work through. And I'm looking at people in the audience right now that I know of who are in that boat right now, people in the audience who have worked through that. You've got to get some answers. I'm telling you, if that's you, you're in the right place. You're in the right place. But some of us will have to give up everything for him. I'm looking at some other people in here right now who have given up a ridiculous amount to follow Jesus. People who've gone through incredible hardship. People who've gone through suffering. People right now who are suffering. But Jesus is asking them to stay faithful. I think to my own life. I think about all the places that God has asked me to go and all the things he's asked me to do and all the steps he's asked me to take that have been so scary and so painful and so laced with uncertainty. And it feels like at times I've had to just give up so much for him, but I know it pales in comparison to what many of you have had to give up for him. But whether you stumble upon him, whether you have to search him out and figure out the answers to your questions, or whether you have to give up everything for him, I'm telling you, he's worth it. He's worth it. I think it's possibly the greatest apologetic that you have for the Christian faith is that you cannot find a Jesus follower who is stumbled upon him, searched for him, or given up everything for him. You can't find a Jesus follower out there that's walking with him right now that looks back and says that it wasn't worth it. I mean, I don't know of any right now in this church who would say, yeah, following Jesus has been okay, but it's not really worth it. If I were you, I'd stay back. The proof is in the pudding. I mean, the proof is right there that he's worth it all. And so if you're doubting right now, if you're struggling right now, if you've got issues to work through right now, I'm telling you, it's worth it. Keep coming back. Keep coming back. Keep learning. Keep discovering more of who he is. Because I'm telling you, God has you on a path right now. And it's a beautiful path. It's a beautiful journey that many of us have walked. And I think at the end of it, you're going to experience life to the full. And we can't wait to be a part of that journey with you. So I want to pray that for you. I want to pray that for us as a church as we journey through these next few weeks together. Would you stand with me? Let me pray for you. And then we're going to sing in response to Jesus. Jesus, we love you. And we believe that you are worth it all. God, I'm praying for people right now that are listening online, people that are in the room right now who are not entirely certain that you're worth it all. And for that moment. Jesus, I'm praying that you would work in our hearts and in our minds, and that you would grow our affection and our love for you. God, I pray that over the next few weeks as we just keep looking to you, we keep looking to your love, we keep looking to the reality that you gave up everything for us. And God, we pray that as we do that you would just continue to give us the inspiration and the motivation and the power we need to live like you're worth it all. God, we're going to sing this song to you that we sang to you a bit ago that says you're worthy. And God, worthy, you know what we mean when we say that. God, we're saying worth it. That you're worth it. You're worth our attention. You're worth us searching through our doubts. You're worth us sacrificing. You're worth us giving $1.75 million away so that we can have a church home so that more people can discover who you are. You're worth it all, God. And so would you grow that heart in our church in the weeks to come? We love you, Jesus. We're grateful for you. Do something special in us. It's in Jesus' name we all pray together. Amen.
So be exalted now in the heavens as your glory fills this place. You alone deserve our praise. You're the name above all names. So be exalted now in the heavens as your glory